Good evening. I'm just doing a short video here this evening. It's December 8th, 2025. I watched President-elect Trump's press conference that he did, I believe it was yesterday. And he talked about the usual things, but it was good to learn some more about them. He talked about he considered Greenland and the Panama Canal part of our economic security. He considers that those two as vital to America's economic security. Now, when I first listened to him and heard him on this, my first thought was he sounded very imperialistic. Everything. All of a sudden, he wanted to seize so much land, and so I didn't really take that well at first. But as I said, I did a lot of research on the Panama Canal, the history of it, how it came about, how our country worked with Panama from the get-go, helped build the canal. We helped build the canal. It was kind of a 50-50 deal with them, but there was all kinds of contentious issues that sprung up, and eventually President Carter sold the canal for $1, basically giving it back solely to Panama. What I'm understanding is that I think President Trump is basically trying to save a dying empire, okay? Because America's superpower status, its economic status, is in decline. The American dollar is in decline. And so, because of other things coming about, more of a BRICS and multipolar world, and so I think what he's trying to do is resurrect America before it ends up no longer a superpower of any sort. Even though we know that superpowers and empires only last so long. So I guess, if he wants to try that, he can try that, of course, and perhaps that will somehow his strategy, maybe it will be good for Americans. I can see a positive side to this if things go right. I know I'm pretty sure he's just joking about Canada, which is a good thing, because Canada is a sovereign nation on its own and doesn't really need to be part of America. It's in its own country, and so I assume that was just him joking around. But he does make good points about people paying their, that America helps protect Canada, and we don't really need a lot of the stuff that comes from Canada, according to him. He said, like milk. He says we already have enough milk here with our cars that are sold from there. He wants them to be coming out of Detroit instead of getting them from Canada. He talked about his tariffs, so that everything, it will promote American consumers buying things made in America instead of imported in from other countries. And this particular section right here, I'm just going to play a few minutes of, not even that, a few seconds of it. And this is in regard to what's going on And by the way, he seemed to understand the Ukraine Russia deal pretty well. He said he understood why Russia would feel not good about having encroachment on the borders of their borders, with this NATO and all that. But I think he may be able to achieve, and it's not really him achieving it, because I don't think Russia's going to bend that much. As I listened to something on that somebody said Zelensky will bend easily to President Trump, but not so for Putin, because we all know why, because they've been waiting. Russia's been dealing with this for years and years, with the Ukraine issue and the NATO issue. So, but I believe that Trump can come up with a satisfactory peace treaty among the Russia and Ukraine. At least that. Now the Middle East issue, it's a bit more complicated, I think, because of the AIPAC and Zionist issues, and Netanyahu, who is a terrible, horrible leader of Israel. Terrible, evil man. In any case, I'm going to play this one little section here about how he describes what will happen to this in this issue.
Say it just very simply. Steve's got a job to do. He's a great guy, great negotiator, great person. They respect him over there already. It's what we needed over there. We have people that know everything about the Middle East, but they can't speak properly. They don't know. He's a great negotiator. That's what I needed. I could have sent that gentleman right over there, Hussein. He's a great negotiator. There are people, they're rare. Great negotiators are very rare, like a great surgeon. But we have the right person. But I tell this, I don't want to hurt the negotiation. If the deal isn't done before I take office, which is now going to be 2 weeks, all hell will break out in the Middle East.
Okay, so when I first heard that, I thought that Trump was threatening, because he said things like, it's not going to be good for Hamas, it's not going to be good for anybody, he said. Well, I think when you hear that, and what he just said here, I think what and my son helped me to understand this because he was listening with me, and sometimes he sees certain things that I don't. And he basically said, if a deal isn't made before he gets into office, all hell. In other words, all hell may break loose, but it's going to break loose. It sounds to me is what he's saying is that if something doesn't come about before he gets in, it's not going to be good. I mean, from this, these, and then within these 2 weeks, anything can happen where perhaps Netanyahu doesn't feel that Trump is bending enough to his will, and he could go ahead, with Biden in there, who doesn't know what he's doing. Last week Biden had pondered attacking Iran, bombing Iran. So it's possible they might rush that along if Netanyahu feels like Trump is not gonna bend his will as much as he wants. That's possible. And so if that was the case, I think what he's saying is maybe things are going to go down the tubes if we can't get this in, because, Netanyahu and his government he has his own plans, and he doesn't care. He doesn't care about America, which he uses for his fighting. He uses our troops. He doesn't care about his own people, let alone anybody else. And I know Trump talked about getting the hostages back, but a lot of the hostages died with the bombings from the IDF in buildings and things. They supposedly said it was Hamas, but they, earlier on in this, hostages were killed due to those bombings, and Israeli government didn't seem to care. And so there was a few hostages that came out of buildings with white flags and all that, and they were shot. So I don't think the IDF or the Israeli government is really too compassionate or caring about their own people, let alone anybody else. We could see how they treat the Palestinians. In any case, this was an interesting press conference. Sometimes it's hard to understand Trump because he seems like he's like a dichotomy. It's like he's two people. It's one side, he seems to make a lot of common sense, a lot of sense, and then the other side, it seems like he's like doing the total opposite of what he was just saying. So we'll have to wait and see, but I thought the press conference went pretty well, but I might be reading it wrong. Who knows? Maybe it's what I originally thought. I don't know. We'll wait and see what happens. I do think that President Trump does care about the American people. He does care. He seemed, as I was listening to Colonel Black, he's a congressman, Richard Black, he was a congressman, and he had said that President Trump is very good at listening. He goes, there's one thing, he listens really well, so it's possible that peace, with the Ukraine and Russia issue, all that, he feels like there's a chance that Trump may not fall too under the thumb of the deep state, because he was overwhelmed in his first term and blindsided by what was going on. He didn't really know all of the insides of all that and politics and all that because, he hadn't been a politician. So one other thing I wanted to play, then perhaps, this segues into what I was just saying about Trump's Middle Eastern perspective on Israel and Palestine. So when I saw this post on X this morning, I was so pleased. It really gave me a lot of hope that perhaps Trump was actually, but I'll play it for you and then I'll explain a bit more. He posted this, so I'm going to go to that. I'm going to play the video so that you can hear Professor Sachs on this issue of the Syrian war and Netanyahu.
The war in Syria, and you may actually hear from grown-up reporters who are lying through their teeth or ignorant beyond imagining that, the war in Syria, yes, Russia intervened in Syria. Well, do you know that that Obama tasked the CIA to overthrow the Syrian government starting 4 years before Russia intervened? What kind of nonsense is that? And how many times did the New York Times report on Operation Timber Sycamore, which was the presidential order to the CIA to overthrow Bashar al-Assad? 3 times in 10 years. This is not democracy. This is a game. And it's a game of narrative. Why did the U.S. invade Iraq in 2003? Well, first of all, it was completely phony pretenses. It wasn't, we were so wrong, they didn't have weapons of mass destruction. They actually did focus groups in the fall of 2002 to find out what would sell that war to the American people. Abe Shulsky, if you want to know the name of the PR genius. They did focus groups on the war. They wanted the war all the time. They had to figure out how to sell the war to the American people, how to scare the shit out of the American people. It was a phony war. Where did that war come from? You know what? It's quite surprising. That war came from Netanyahu, actually. You know that? It's weird. And the way it is that Netanyahu had from 1995 onward the theory that the only way we're going to get rid of Hamas and Hezbollah is by toppling the governments that support them. That's Iraq, Syria, and Iran. And the guy's nothing if not obsessive. And he's still trying to get us to fight Iran this day, this week. He's a deep, dark son of a bitch, sorry to tell you. Because he's gotten us into endless wars, and because of the power of all of this in the U.S. politics, he's gotten his way. But that war was totally phony. So what is this democracy versus dictatorship? Come on. These are not even sensible terms.
Yeah, so President Trump actually shared this post that shows Professor Sachs, Jeffrey Sachs, talking on this issue. This really gave me hope. Really just gave me hope. Because, you know, President Trump, I'm sure, has to be careful in how he speaks regarding Israel and Palestine because of the AIPAC and, you know, the whole thing with the lobbyists. But he knows that he put this out, and he could say, oh, well, you know, see, it's Obama's fault. That could be what he could say. But the other part is in there. And the other part about how horrible Netanyahu is a pretty brave thing for him to put out here, you know, in the position that he's in because of obvious reasons, if anybody knows the history of this. So the fact that he put that out there shows, and it shows that he knows that Netanyahu is an evil, crazed man. And I just thought this was amazing that he shared this, and it really gave me hope that he isn't totally, you know, he's not totally going to fall for everything that Netanyahu wants him to do. Let's hope so. Let's pray so. And yeah. So I mean, that's the way I look at it. Is he recognizes this because of when he was in office the first time that some people were tapping his phone and they recorded his talking about meeting with Abbas, the Palestinian Authority leader, and how wonderful he was. He said he was like a father to him. He said he was he could have talked to him forever. He said he was a very kind man. But when he talked to Netanyahu, he was asking him, you know, come on, you want to make a deal? Do you want a two-state solution? You know, get this worked out? And Netanyahu was like, well, and Trump immediately said, you don't want to make a deal, do you? And he just was like beating around the bush. You know, he wouldn't really answer. Netanyahu wouldn't really answer. And so Trump knows that Netanyahu really doesn't want peace. And perhaps maybe Trump is hoping that Netanyahu will be, you know, with the corruption charges and everything and fraud, that he'll be thrown in jail. And then he's thinking, oh, well, I can work with another leader, another Israeli leader that perhaps will be more open to that. Although if it's anybody, I mean, for the most part, I don't know if there's any less extremist Israeli leaders left, really, in Israel's government. So, but in any case, that's my thoughts on that, and I just wanted to share it because I found it amazing, and you know, there's some hope there. There's some hope, and if you go by spiritually, again, looking over this whole thing of what I shared with you, this thing about him trying to bring America back to top, you know, he wants America to be the first to do whatever the first to manufacture. They want America to manufacture this and that. He wants America to be the first to do whatever comes forward, like technologically wise, and he wants America to be known as the first for everything. So, of course, that goes with his slogan and what he's been looking for, so it's not too unusual. At the same time, to put back, counter China, that's basically what he's trying to do. And when you look at that, you know that China owns both ends, basically overlooks and owns, I wouldn't say owns, quote unquote, both ends of the Panama Canal, when I was looking in on that and studying all that. And so there was a prophecy where an elder, a priest that I had shared about, Elpidios, had said that China is the forerunner of the Antichrist. So probably because of the digital issues with the social credit score and everything through digital IDs and all that stuff. And so if Trump is trying to take back, get America back to where it was, and this could push China back a bit in those few decades where we're supposed to have peace. Those are my thoughts. What are yours? Please share them at the bottom of this video if you would like. Thank you for watching my video. Thank you for following my channel. If you haven't already, please follow my channel, like my video, share my channel, share my videos with others so that they can learn about my channel as well. Thank you so much and have a wonderful night.